More than warriors, they were thinkers, masters of strategy. They built roads that still exist and shaped laws that guide us today. But on the battlefield, the Romans were something else entirely. Their tactics were ruthless and unexpected, crushing not just their enemies but their spirits. This was an army forged in discipline, fear, and precision, an unstoppable machine that fought not just harder but smarter. The enemy never saw it coming, and when they did, today we uncover the secrets behind the Roman army's most shocking battle tactics, strategies that truly stunned the ancient world. First, the testudo, the living tank. Imagine rows of soldiers marching slowly forward, their shields locked together so tightly that not even a single arrow could slip through. Shields in the front, on top, and on the sides. From a distance, it appeared as a living tank, crafted from metal and muscle. This formation, known as the testudo, had an impenetrable. Archers rained down arrows, but nothing got through. Spears bounced off, rocks were ineffective, and even fire couldn't reach the men beneath. The enemy watched in horror as this wall of shields crept closer, seemingly unstoppable. Roman commanders employed the testudo in several instances, particularly during sieges, enabling them to cross open ground under heavy fire and march directly to the enemy's walls. It wasn't just defense, yet there was a catch to this success. The testudo was slow, very slow. If enemies got too close or attacked from the sides, the formation could break. But for most foes who had never seen anything like it, it delivered a clear message. We are coming and you can't stop us. Rome's second most terrifying method was the triple line, or Achai's triplex, the endless wall. This was one of the most brilliant and shocking battle tactics ever seen. Thousands of Roman soldiers took their position. This was no ordinary wall of men. It stood 3 lines deep, built to wear the enemy down slowly, surely, without mercy. The triple line unfolded in a layered fury. First at the front were the Hastati, young, strong, and ready to charge. Next came the Principes, older and more experienced. And finishing off the enemy were the Triarii, seasoned veterans, calm and silent, waiting for the right moment. The real champion in the triple line. The battle didn't start with everyone charging at once. Light soldiers, the Velites, skirmished, then slipped back through gaps. Then the Hastati charged. If they couldn't break the enemy, they retreated through those very gaps. Only when it became critical did the veterans step in to clean up the mess. Soldiers in the triple line swapped in and out like clockwork, never allowing the enemy a moment's rest. This formation adapted to flat ground. Next we have the wedge, also known as the spearhead of men. The wedge formed a triangle of soldiers, narrow in the front, wide at the back. This was not just about shape, it was a weapon itself. Shields and swords combined into an unstoppable force. Roman commanders used it to break through enemy lines, particularly when enemies stood shoulder to shoulder, believing themselves safe. The strongest behind them, more soldiers pressed forward. Row after row, the collective weight pushed the front just like a wooden wedge splits a log. The Roman wedge split armies. It was successfully employed at the Battle of Pydna in 168 BC, tearing apart the unbeatable Macedonian phalanx. Outnumbered Romans used wedges to break through Boudicca's rebel army. Perhaps one of the wedge's most powerful features was the shock and awe it in. Most armies fought in flat, straight lines, relying on numbers. The wedge ignored numbers, using precision and pressure. One moment the enemy had a solid front, the next it was split in half, with Romans pouring in, causing utter confusion. This next tactic was one of Rome's most ingenious, the corvus. Inexperienced at sea compared to Carthage, Rome needed a revolutionary idea. Their answer was to turn sea battles into land battles. Enter the corvus, meaning crow or ray. The corvus was a heavy wooden boarding bridge, about 11 meters long. Mounted at the front of a Roman ship, when an enemy ship drew close, the Romans dropped the bridge and the sharp spikes slammed into the enemy deck, locking the two ships together. Roman soldiers, trained for land combat, ran across the bridge and engaged in hand-to-hand fighting, doing what they did best. Carthaginian sailors, masters of sea movement, were shocked. Their mobility. The corvus helped Rome achieve its first major naval victory at the Battle of Mylae in 260 BC, capturing 30 Carthaginian ships. It worked again at the Battle of Ecnomus, despite Carthage's superior speed. However, the corvus had one serious setback. It was heavy and couldn't be used in rough seas. But for a time, this ingenious, brutal bridge gave Rome control of the war on. Next is the feigned retreat, the ultimate psychological trap. A feigned retreat appears to be a loss. Soldiers turn and run, the enemy cheers and chases, but it's all part of the plan to draw the enemy forward, making them overconfident and disorganized. Then at the right moment, the retreating force stops, turns, and strikes back. This approach demands immense discipline. Soldiers must pretend to lose. Romans first fell victim to this tactic in 262 BC near Agrigentum, Sicily, when Carthaginian general Hanno used Numidian cavalry to lure Roman cavalry into a waiting ambush. This tactic shocked opposing armies, playing with their minds. It made them believe they were winning right before walking into disaster, turning pride into panic and strength into confusion. We've discussed offensive strategies, but one siege in 52 BC, at Alesia, Gallic leader Vercingetorix took refuge in a fortified hilltop town. Most generals would have stormed the place, but not Julius Caesar. Instead of a direct attack, Caesar chose patience and engineering, setting a trap that stunned the ancient world. This approach consisted of two rings. First, the outer ring or circumvallation. Caesar ordered his legions to surround Alesia with a massive line of fortification. This circumvallation stretched for 16 kilometers, 10 miles of ditches, wooden walls, towers, and traps, completely encircling the enemy. No one could escape. Next was the inner ring or contravallation. Caesar anticipated Vercingetorix would call for reinforcements, so he built another line of fortifications facing the opposite way, meant to protect the Roman. Two rings provided 360-degree coverage of Alesia and defense from behind. The detail was incredible: deep trenches, some filled with water, others packed with sharpened stakes, high walls and hidden pits. Caesar literally trapped his enemy between two deadly walls like a lid on a boiling pot. It was an engineering marvel. The Gauls inside tried to break out. Those outside attempted to break in. Caesar's double siege worked, breaking the last strong resistance in Gaul. Have you ever seen a war elephant? They were absolutely terrifying, huge, fast, and seemingly unstoppable. They could crush men and horses alike. Roman soldiers initially struggled against them during the Pyrrhic and Punic Wars, but Rome adapted, turning fear into strategy. Instead of attacking head-on, Roman troops aimed for the legs and eyes. They employed hard-to-defend spears, arrows, and side attacks. Rather than allowing elephants to crash through tightly packed lines, Romans created narrow passages in their formations. When the animals charged, they passed straight through, becoming confused and exposed behind the lines, then attacked from all sides. One of the strangest tactics involved fire pigs, actual pigs covered in flammable pitch or tar, set on fire and released. The squealing pigs, combined with the sight and smell of flames, drove the elephants mad with fear, often causing them to turn and run back into their own lines, trampling soldiers and sowing chaos. The tactics didn't stop there. Romans also dug trenches and placed sharp spikes in the ground to block or injure elephants before they could do damage. These strategies worked notably at the Battle of Beneventum in 275 BC and the decisive Battle of Zama in 2. In these battles, Hannibal's elephants charged, missed their targets in Roman gaps, and ran back into the Carthaginian army, contributing to Rome's victory. The Roman army maintained absolute control over its soldiers, enforced by the harshest, most terrifying tactic: decimation. Decimation meant killing 1 out of every 10 soldiers in a unit as chosen by lot. It didn't matter if a man fought bravely. The punishment applied in extreme cases like mutiny, desertion, or cowardice. The most brutal part: the unlucky soldier was clubbed or stabbed to death by his 9 closest comrades. Survivors faced further punishment, such as reduced rations and sleeping outside the camp. This tactic, though rarely used, instilled fear throughout the ranks and among enemy armies. Roman soldiers feared death in battle, but they feared failure even more, knowing their greatest danger might come from their own side. If General Crassus utilized it after failing to defeat Spartacus, killing hundreds of his own brothers in arms. Mark Antony also applied it after a disastrous defeat. This shocking tactic of self-destruction highlighted how far Rome was willing to go for order, control, and loyalty. The Roman army mastered war not just with strength, but with strategy and terrifying creativity. These tactics weren't merely about winning. They projected the image of an unstoppable force, a military machine that left its enemies trembling.